Hello and welcome to another one of these lives, if TikTok even bothers notifying any people. So those that's listening to this maybe on Spotify, if I put it on there, etc. TikTok will limit me to 50 people. You'll hear me say it as I progress. If we even get 50, because the amount of times that people say they've not been notified that I'm on, so it's difficult for me to know whether TikTok's notifying people. So if they are notifying people, hello to those people. Just started this live, just waiting for people to join. I am the guy that does those videos about ancient aliens. I debunk pretty much everyone, and so on and so on. Gimmer Turner's wrote, I was notified. Oh, well, that's a first. They'll probably thank you very much for letting me know. They'll probably only notify up to 50 people, probably, because that's what they do. They limit me. But no, thanks. That's good to know. So I'll just waffle on if anyone's got any questions about spirits, ancient aliens, modern aliens, crop circle, all that kind of stuff. Telekinesis, telepathy. Funny enough, telepathy. Who thinks it's not real? Well, it turns out our true history is not that daft after all. So it turns out that there's a thing called, forgive me if I pronounce the name wrong, but it's what was it called? Not Metatron, something similar to Metatron, which is an MME or MMG or EEG, but not the normal one. But there's one that actually. So you put this device on your head. I'm still learning about it, but you put this device on your head, and it registers not electrical impulses like the EEG does, but it actually registers magnetic energy, which is weird because apparently you have magnetic energy coming from your brain. Who would have thought that? Tell me about it. So, this is where our true history is the one thing that our true history is good at. So, if you're old enough, that you used to have magnetic tapes, VHS tapes, audio cassettes, one track, and all that kind of stuff. So magnets actually can store information. You get where I'm going with this? So somehow information passes through your skull to this Megatron or whatever it was called. I can't remember what it was called. And it can actually leave your brain. It can leave your brain and go up to these electrode type magnet type things, whatever's on your head. So it can actually go through your skull. So when you think about information on magnetic tape, for example. Thank you, Jazz. You can then thank you, Shabazz. So could telepathy be an actual transfer of magnetic information as opposed to electrical impulse information? Now, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's not really, because they actually pick up your magnetic signature, thank you, Gary, from outside of your skull, which clearly means it's leaving your brain. It's gone from a tangible physical object, such as a brain, to something that is now not. I know technically you could say magnetism is tangible, but is it really? I mean, I can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't smell it. But magnets do repel each other with no discernible reason, really. I mean, we kind of know why, but so the point is, could telepathy actually be done? Could there be people that's pushing out a further signal that actually goes further from the skull outwards, and if you're lucky, you come across the right person that's also got that same ability, and you end up with two people that can actually possibly pick up each other's thoughts. Now, add someone with maybe a metal plate in their head from an operation, and is that going to amplify the magnetic, information being pushed out from your brain? Which sounds stupid, but again, there is this thing called EEG, not ECG or something, but it's a similar type of thing. So anyway, so could telepathy be real? I mean, I 100% believe it. I kind of had some sort of my own experiences with an ex-girlfriend. So I believe it to be possible, but certainly localized, not not the other side of the world, free phone calls and all that. So yes, hello to everyone that's joined. Hello, Jane Goddess. I hope you're well. I do sneak in occasionally on you, and I don't even know the guy's name, to be honest, but you and the Candle Man, if you don't mind me calling him that. Fort Candles. Scrolling down, Darwin's wrote, hi, Darwin. So Darwin actually sent me a video, bless, and I'd seen a clip of it before, which I got frustrated with, and it was about the boogosphere, supposedly with the squiggly lines on it, etc., are supposedly Sanskrit or something like that. And it gives information about our past and blah, blah, blah. What a load of crap. Sorry, but the logic is because obviously we're not supposed to have these boogospheres. It crashed. So I'm not saying the boogosphere is fake. I'm saying the numpties that have supposedly translated these words to talk about our history. Absolutely. So could you imagine the Anunnaki going, right, we don't want anyone to see this object. We don't want them to bring it down. But hey, let's put their history on this ball just in case. They talk sort of modern now, but hey, let's just put it in ancient text as well. That'll be a bit of a giggle. Because it wasn't done in ancient times, because it's talking about ancient times. So we know it wasn't done, these boogospheres weren't built before the actual events that it's waffling on about, apparently waffling on about. So we can rule out that as a complete numptiness move that they're reading. So, it's literally like you driving a car, as I said to Darwin, it's like driving a car with, Henry VIII's details on it and everything else, but no one's allowed to see it and no one's allowed to touch it unless I accidentally crash. And then, what's this old English language on there? Ye are Henry VIII, blah, blah, blah. Ridiculous. So, no, I don't think they've translated these symbols that are on there into anything. Personally, I think that's a crock of crap. No one in their right mind. No, these are smart aliens that created this device, and they're going to go, do you know what we need on there? What? We need their backstory just in case it crashes. And we'll do it in a language that they hardly even know. I mean, how stupid. So, no, I personally don't think that is the that is what's written on there. Personally, Rolos wrote, Enoch became Megatron. I haven't looked into Megatron in the past, so I can't agree or disagree on you. I'll take your word for that. Jazzers wrote, hi, Outer History, hope you're doing well. Not too bad, thank you. Hope you guys are doing well as well. I put a video out just before I started this live saying, I'm doing a live right now. Come join and break TikTok's limit that they have on me. And we know they have a limit on me. So let's see if that actually, the video even gets watched, because obviously they limit my videos as well. And I will take it off once I finish doing the live. So the idea was that it was a sort of an advert without it having to go live. So it's an advert now saying join the live. But whether or not people even get to see that, because TikTok certainly limits me. I put a video up, my third part of everything that happened, which people seem to love. It's great. Over on Instagram, within 10 minutes, I had 1,400 something views. On TikTok, I think it was 650 or something like that. So there's a difference between 50 and 1,000 plus in the same amount of time. So Instagram doesn't limit my videos as yet, or certainly not limiting them to the capacity that TikTok does, which is a shame because, if you look back at my older videos, because you can actually see the hit count on, or how many views on per videos, and obviously the older ones have the higher amount, not because they're better, and not because they're older, therefore more people seen them, but it's when they go out, they used to get thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of views, but now I'm lucky if I get 200. So totally throttled by this TikTok. Kerry's wrote, sorry everyone, it's Tuesday and I'm in. Oh, no worries, Kerry. Sorry, I just come up with the idea of sticking up the video in the background to see whether or not that helps people come along. Sorry, yeah, no worries at all, Kerry. I mean, looking at the amount we've got now, it looks like TikTok is certainly not pushing me out there to the 300,000 followers that I have. So I think it'll probably be the lovely family that I have. So I don't think we'll need a moderator to kick ass and chew bubblegum. Darwin's wrote, they say they've used AI, etc. to decipher it, which made me kind of believe it. Yeah, no, that's crap. I mean, I'll be absolutely honest with you. The other day, because I'm always honest, the other day I was doing something on my book, and I'm not the world's greatest speller. You probably guessed that. And I can't read great. So when I used to do my older books, I used to use, obviously, Microsoft Word or Open Office and do the spell checks and hope that and ask my family members to try and read the books, but no one bothered. Thank you, Juice. So with AI, I thought, I'll just do a chapter and ask it just to tidy it up. That's fair. I'm not using AI. It's just a tool. I'm not using it for the research. Hell, God knows, I would never do that. But guess what happened on ChatGDP? It deleted bits from my passage and from my chapter, and I said, "Why'd you do that?" And it said, because I was trying to keep it get flowing faster, and I was like, "No, I told you right at the beginning, absolutely categorically do not remove anything other than just tidy it up, capital letters, full stops, that kind of stuff." So I did the same with Grok. I thought I'd test Grok. Grok done it properly, left my information in there. So I started doing more tests with ChatGDP, asking it questions. And while Grok is the same, it will call Zecharia Sitchin. This is how you can tell that they're totally biased. Start talking about Zecharia Sitchin, and it will lie to you. For example, I was doing one of those live chats this morning to Grok in the car, and Grok was chatting about telekinesis, and Grok brought up Uri Geller, and basically said he was debunked on I can't remember what it was. He was debunked on something, and I said, "Hang on a minute," because you know me, I know what I'm talking about. I said, "Show me who debunked him on that particular thing," and Grok went, "Yeah, you're right. No one debunked him." So I said, "So why did you say it?" "Yeah, you're right to pick me out and catch me out." No, don't do it anymore. But they will lie. Do not trust AI. So it's not that they're lying. Oh, the sky's blue, the sky's red. They're selectively lying about paranormal, aliens, all that kind of stuff, and that's even Grok, which is Elon Musk's. They will censor anything to do with, and I had someone say to me the other day about AI. They said, "Oh, but AI said," and I said, "Oh, for crying out loud!" AI said, what was it they said? So AI said that's not true or something. And I was like, for crying out loud! The amount of times I catch it out with, obviously, when it's talking about paranormal stuff is ridiculous. Use it for, how long will it take me to get to Scotland or whatever? Fine. Do not use it for ancient history or aliens or anything like that, because it will lie. All of them will lie, but ChatGDP is the worst. Sorry, that's my political broadcast over. Wobzilla, cool name, has wrote, they leave things for us to find at the right time. AI can translate now. While AI can do many things, as I just mentioned, you cannot trust it to give you lies. It really does lie. And then you say they leave things for us to find. So the problem is they would have had to have built this device at some point after all the events have happened for it to be able to have the description of the events that's happened on this boogosphere, if you believe that that's what's written on there. And when you say it's left for us to find at the right time, if that device didn't short circuit, apparently it hit a power line, but if it didn't hit a power line, we wouldn't have that information. So at what point are they going to give us that information? Do you see what I mean? You're saying, without sounding rude, you're saying that they leave things for us to find at the right time. If that was the case, they could have done a lot more stuff. What happens if let's say Henry VIII, and he finds this boogosphere, and it's got that writing on it? He wouldn't have known how to translate it, so that wouldn't have been the right time. But you're saying that right time is right now for us to know our history, when we've got the tablets already that they have tried, the elites have tried to hide and not let us know about. So we kind of already know about it. So there's no point in writing it on an orb that is more than likely a probe of some description. If they're going to leave some information for us, they would have written it on the pyramid or something like that. That's a huge, unmovable object, not a sphere that's flying at whatever speeds they fly at, and hope that it lands somewhere that someone can pick it up. And I think there's too many variables. But no, I think it's ridiculous for them to put it on our history. Thank you, Beam. I think it's ridiculous that anyone would think that they, not you, I'm just saying that anyone would even pretend that they wrote our history on a ball and hope that one day the ball crashes so that we can read it and decipher it. No. Thank you, Juice. They could have just done it in English or another language, or Sumerian even. But to go right back, so that means that the orb itself would have probably been written way back then. But what was the point? Maybe in 10,000 years, those humans will understand if this sphere breaks down. And no. Nicole's right. Hello, Our True History. Hello, Nicole. Nice of you to join. TikTok does limit me, so if you're wondering why there's only 20 people, it's because TikTok limits me. Darwin's right. I didn't get notified for the live or video. I just always... Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, bless you. That's nice. Wobzilla's wrote, took you to £1,000. Oh, thank you. That was, I'm guessing that's the hearts. They do limit me, so what we found is there's no point in doing the hearts, really. I bless you for doing it, but we've had, I've been on these lives for 6 hours before, and we still have 50 people, so it's not, we're limited big time. Wobzilla's right. AI translate any old scriptures. I wouldn't say any old scriptures. Otherwise, because there's some limits. So Google went to the British Museum and asked them would they like the tablets translated. But even then, they needed someone to, guide this machine, etc. So, drawing the images or taking a photograph of the images and uploading them to one of the AIs, we can all do that. We've got the pictures of the boogosphere. I would suggest maybe go and do that and come back and tell me what it says. I pretty much guarantee you it's not going to say what they've told you it says. Juices wrote, greetings out, good evening, Our True History. Great to catch you on. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Juice. Very nice of you to say. Wobzilla's wrote that AI the elites have got is 1,000 times more advanced than the 1% they gave us. Correct, I would agree with that. But obviously, it's not the 1,000% that would have translated to Boogosphere, because the elites wouldn't want us to know our history, which is why they hide it from us. But I do agree that whatever we're getting given now, I've said this many a time on these lives, the elites are so far ahead of us. Nicole's right. I read something about best friends being able to connect telepathically. It's interesting. Well, funny, I knew you was going to say that, Nicole. Sorry. They don't get any better. They really don't. Leave now while you have the chance, because my comedy is probably why TikTok limits me. Juices wrote, mine cuts out at the most convenient time when it wants to avoid an answer. Thank you, Nicole. Oh, bless. Yours cuts. Yes, I've Oh, interesting. Okay, mine doesn't cut out, the ones I've used, but it changed. I've got to the point where I've been arguing so much with ChatGPT that in the end it just kept repeating itself, saying, "Is there any other question?" And I would argue again, and it would just say, "Is there any other question?" So it knows that I'm angry, knows I'm right, and just avoids it. So yeah, they don't trust them. Darwin's wrote, wonderful logic as always. Thank you, Darwin. Bless you. Thank you. I might be wrong, but I mean, who would you? If you could show yourself, if you wanted to do something, you wouldn't put it on a thing that's, I can't see at all. It's the same as the supposed translations of the zeros and ones from the Pendlesham Forest incident. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, where a triangular UFO landed at Bentwaters Air Force Base. Long story, is back in 1985, Christmas. And Penelston and Holt, two officers, went there, and one of them touched the craft when it had landed, and supposedly had time missing, because obviously if you're inside the bubble, then you were probably, I don't know whether there was a bubble, but supposedly he had a couple of minutes of missing time. But after that, at night, he would get these flashes of zeros and ones, which is binary code. So he wrote it down, and he said that the information that was on the craft said, worse the effect of that they're here to do exploration and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So it's, in other words, it's like you touching my car and saying, he's come from London, for example, and he's going to Scotland, and he's doing a round trip because he wants to see how many women he can meet on the way, blah blah blah. It's literally like that. So and unfortunately that doesn't sit right with me. You don't have a UFO and hope that someone touches it, and thank you, Shabazz, and hopes that someone understands binary code, because binary code, you need hell of a lot of zeros and ones just to say the word hi. So in other words, you would need something to translate it. So if you're going to have zeros and ones, you have to hope that whoever it is that's touching the bloody craft knows how to decipher zeros and ones into, and we use binary code in obviously human language, but binary code might mean nothing to someone else. I know, thank you again, Shabazz. I know people say, oh, binary codes is the universal language. No, it's not. No, it's not. Thank you, Shabazz. And thank you, Chantel, because binary code's made up of series of, depends on what grid, you can have different types of binary code. So you can have 8 by 8, which basically makes up a grid of 8 by 8, and then where it's 0 is nothing there, and then when you've got a 1, it's solid. So the first row may have no ones, all zeros. Second row may have 3 ones, and then so it builds the letter up. So kind of ridiculous to assume that the letters, 26, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so that's why I struggle with that whole story where he touched it, because who in their right mind goes to another planet and literally tells hope, if someone ever touches your craft, you give them the information of why you're even there. I can't see it myself. Webzellers wrote, yes, that's why they are 70 years in advance than we know. They keep us where they want. Spot on, I totally agree with you on that one. Jane has wrote to Wobzilla, I find AI inaccurate and misleading. Yeah, I do. It's all right for the odd, well, not in my case because of the content it was avoiding, but it's all right for some things, but I wouldn't trust it. Webzillas wrote, there's loads of them spheres, orbs being found, and they kill to collect them. You mean the elites or black ops or whatever you want to call it would kill to get them? I mean, we're lucky that Yaimi, how you would pronounce his name, the guy that's got it at the moment. So the person that found it was offered stuff to pass it over to someone else, but he said no, I want someone that I can trust that is into this stuff, not you guys. So he was lucky that he didn't come across the wrong people, because obviously that would have been the end of him. Jane's asked, how do you know it's 70 years? Yeah, I haven't asked Wobzilla why specifically 70 years, but Jane has decided to do that. Scrolling down, Beamers wrote, it looks to me like a tool for atmospheric measurements. You are speaking to the boogosphere. Yeah, that's what we was referring to, yeah. I mean, I understand why you say it looks like a tool for atmospheric measurement. You could be totally right. Obviously, technically that's still a probe, because it's probing the atmosphere, so it still will be classed as a probe. But yeah, obviously they're doing things to our atmosphere. We know that. I mean, we've known that for a long time. But I think more and more evidence is coming out now to prove that they are doing the things that we've been saying that they're doing to the atmosphere and to our bodies as a result of that. Aluminium, for example, in the body and whatnot. So, is that terraforming for this device to then say, okay, it's good enough now for another alien race to come down? Is it, there could be a billion reasons, but yeah, certainly our atmosphere is important to the elites and not to us, according to the elites, because otherwise we wouldn't be having that crap pumped in the sky. Andy's wrote, evening out to his. Hi Andy, nice of you to join. Darwin's wrote, do you still think YouTube is a better bet for your lives? So I did do a YouTube live. Thank you, Beam, again. Oh, bless. I did do a YouTube live, and we sort of hit a plateau of the amount of people. It wasn't in the hundreds or anything. It was my first live, so I'm not sure if TikTok, YouTube is just sussing me out maybe the first time, make sure I don't do anything stupid. So I will do another live on YouTube, and then worst case scenario, I'll try and do a live on each platform and talk about juggling with like different devices. So, tablet, phone, another phone. So I'll be on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube all at the same time, trying to remember everyone's conversations from previous channels, and oh god. So yeah, it might be a nightmare on that. I don't know whether Facebook does lives, so that's something that I haven't looked into, but yeah, certainly limited at the moment. Whether or not TikTok and Instagram was just early days, I don't know. Beamers wrote, yes, I am doing it now. Oh, what, the images uploading it? Interesting. Cool. Webzilla, sorry, you're not advanced enough to answer my question, sorry. And funny, I knew, um, and Jane knew, I think Kerry knew. There was just something about Webzilla, just something about that. Before he wrote that, I knew right from the very first comment, and so did the moderators. They sussed it. So when you say you're not advanced enough to answer my question, I have replied to everything you've mentioned. As far as I'm aware, you haven't actually asked me a question. You've just pointed out things like, oh, the military are 100 years or 70 years more advanced. So unfortunately, one of us is not is not asked the question, and therefore the point that you've just made now seems kind of illogical. Wobzilla, I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying it's a bit stupid to say that unless you're referring to one of the moderators where you may have asked them a question, because I don't read the questions or comments between people. I only read it when it's doesn't have an at the front. So you may have been talking to them, in which case you're leaving because of the moderator not being more advanced, which is again illogical, because you could have asked me the question. Not saying that the moderators don't know the answer, or not saying I do know the answer, but you haven't even asked me the question. So one of us has come out looking like a genius. The other one's come out looking a little bit not so much. Sorry, Wob. Yeah, not the sharpest there, are we? Shame. Jazz has wrote to Wob, bye, then have a nice evening. Jane has wrote to Wob, rude, just asking you to share your evidence. No need to be derogatory. Yeah, I saw that happening right from the get-go. The problem is he doesn't have evidence. What he should have said is, I believe, like I've done, I believe that the military are ahead of us. Yeah, no problem at all. But he didn't. So yes, I think you guys, the mods, knew I think everyone probably knew what was coming. Thank you, Beam. It's a shame. I think let's be honest, this is the way I took it from the very first comment from Wobzilla was, I'm guessing it's a he. Thank you, Beam. Is he liked to think that he was smart. And then when I broke down his comment about the AI saying it's real and blah, 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 and I pointed out that AI lies, and there's no logical way that anyone in the ancient times would have wrote that down in the language, blah, 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 blah. I think he probably felt slightly put out of joint, because I thought he probably thought, I don't know whether he follows me or not. He follows me, but I don't know how long. He could have only just followed me 2 minutes ago, or he could have been only watched one of my videos. So I don't think he realised who I was in terms of what I talk about. And so he got burnt a little bit and felt a bit, probably slighted, shall we say. And then, of course, the moderators then started asking him for the evidence of some of the claims that he was making, which obviously put him really on a back foot. So when he said at the end there that, we're not, me or you, I don't know who he's referring to, is not advanced enough, he's really saying that he thought he was smart, got caught out, and is now trying to knock us down or knock me down, even though he didn't even ask me a question. So yeah, unfortunate. It's a shame. Darwin's wrote, why would the officer lie about the binary code? Do you think it's more complicated than that? It's a very good question. So I've spoken to Linda Moulton Howe regarding this, genuinely have, and I've gone through the whole process with her, and she actually, I think I've probably still got the email somewhere. She called me a genius, which was lovely. It was emails, not verbal, because I'll probably be abed by the time she's up. But it was emails, and so I sent a message to earthfiles@earthfiles.com, and I said that I didn't tell her who I was or anything. This was a few years back, before I even did TikTok. So basically, now this is just my opinion. The guy that supposedly touched it and wrote these zeros and ones down. After he left the army, he was fighting for some sort of compensation because he had some sort of radiation burns, which, I'm not saying he didn't touch the craft. I'm not saying that at all. He more than likely did. But it's the message that he wrote, the zeros and ones, that I struggle with. So what I found, and this is just my own opinion, is since he did that book, he wrote it in his little notepad in the middle of the night, 001, 001, blah, blah, blah. Since he'd done that, he's been on Ancient Aliens, he's been on, programs with Linda Moulton Howe and all sorts of things, Coast to Coast, whatever. So I'm just wondering, and I'm just throwing this out there, that where he had, because apparently he didn't really do much after the military, he retired. I'm just wondering whether it's a, hey, please believe me and I'll add something extra to it type thing. I don't know. I just, I don't know. I just worry about that. That's my take on it. I don't know. I mean, anyone with a computer back in bloody he didn't write this until well after, years and years and years after that he started supposedly getting the zeros and ones. So, we had computers and all we had to do was work out what, you type in. You used to be able to do it back when the computers were out. There was websites, I know, so I looked at all these kind of things, where you could type in what you want and it will come out with the zeros and ones. So you can just sit there and write 00111, 00111, and it will spell out, whatever you've typed in English. So I don't know. I can't see them writing what their plans are and hope that someone touches it, a craft, when it lands. That just doesn't sit right with me. And again, just do it in English. Don't. If they want someone to know what their plans were, just they're smarter than us. They know that if you're flying over England, the chances are someone will have to be know English. Give them that message there and then, instead of binary. Yeah, I struggle with it. Sean has wrote, can you touch on DNA being infused in certain genetics 200,000 years ago? So what we have is Homo sapiens appeared 300,000 years ago. There's some people that say, some idiots say 1 million years ago, but there's zero evidence of that whatsoever. But I have listed, in fact, in my new book, I've listed all the institutions of what said 300,000 years ago, and surprisingly, one person at the Smithsonian says 300,000 years ago, and another one says something different, 260. But the general consensus is 300,000 years ago that Homo sapiens first appeared. So Homo sapiens is a subcategory of humans, same as Neanderthal, Naledi, Florences, all that lot. So we have fused chromosomes. We have fused telomeres. Now, 1% of mutations. Now, mainstream say it's mutation. From what they still don't know because there's a missing link. So obviously we know what the missing link is, but so they say that the fused chromosomes is a what do I call it? Oh, my brain's gone. Sorry. What's the word? Oh my god, my brain's completely gone. An error. I can't think of the bloody word. So they say it's I can't remember. It starts with an M. Oh bloody hell! I can't remember it. It's completely gone. So the psyop for you, and they're probably bombarding me with microwaves. So this still trying to remember the bloody word. The whatever it was. It's killing me now, not knowing it. It's on the tip of my tongue. So, someone type it in and pin it up. Where it's, oh, good God, I'm struggling now. Where it's not misinformation. Where it's crying out loud, I cannot remember it. It's completely bloody gone. Anyway, so mainstream say that it's a genetic mutation. Mutation, that's the freaking word. Good God, where was you lot? You didn't help me out there. Go to back of the class. Mutation. Okay, so they say that it's a genetic mutation. 90% of genetic mutations are negative. 9% are neutral, meaning it doesn't do anything to a person. 1% of mutations actually improves something. So the general consensus on the fused telomeres is it's actually helped us be smarter than whatever it was that was before. So the certain parts that was capped, they call it capped, made us smarter, or made the first Homo sapiens smarter than what they should have been, which is interesting. So, in other words, where some researchers, and I call them researchers, numpties on TikTok, say, "Oh, the Neanderthal was bred because they were too smart, so they were genetically created to have a dumber, thicker person to work for the Anunnaki." Yes, there are stupid people that have said that. If I'm not mistaken, it was that stupid woman that's got a man's face. I can't remember her name. So yeah. So now we've got 300,000 years with a smarter version of something and Neanderthal. So we don't have whatever it was, because we actually have, when I say we, mainstream, have skeletons, skulls, and all sorts of things of, for example, a Homo erectus and a Neanderthal. So in other words, a child that has the DNA of both species. We have skeletons and skulls, etc., of Homo sapiens and Neanderthal. So in other words, an offspring between them. But what we don't have is Neanderthal and something to create Homo sapien. We don't have that. So we know there's a missing link. Now, we've got the tablets that literally tell us, absolutely tell us, that they would try to create a Homo sapien. And it created it on, so they failed on the sixth time. The seventh time they got it right. Now, interestingly, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, don't quote me, that man was created on the sixth day. So could it be the fact that they heard the word six and thought, okay, let's put that down as 6 instead of 6 failed attempts prior? Just throwing that out there. So the Anunnaki definitely said that they created us. They tell us that. We've got tablets, lots of tablets, especially if you read my book. I point to loads and loads. It's absolutely, the new book, one chapter alone destroys the Bible. But I mean, I can go and get the laptop if you want and read out chapter 1 if you want. But anyway, so we know the Anunnaki were over in the Abzu, which is Africa. So the first human, Homo sapien, supposedly, according to mainstream, was over in Africa. So we've got, so far we're pretty much match for match. Then it was, obviously, they then created 8 more. So there's tablets that actually, I've found some, so I've got that in my book, that tell us about the other ones. That I've even got a tablet where it tells us they'd done something to Enki's rib. I'm not joking. I can't remember the name of the bloody tablet. It's in my book. I copied the actual translation where Nimna's trying to help Enki because someone had done something to his rib, which we know was Ningazida, so the tablet's missing, but Ningazida took something from his rib and injected it into the very first Homo sapien man and female that was able-bodied, not the first 6 that were disabled, but the first. So we've got the next part of that. We don't have the tablet where Ningazida takes the, except apparently in Columbia University, but we have the tablet. We have the tablet after where Enki's complaining that his ribs hurting still. And that's amazing. We actually have that. So this is why my chapter 1 will destroy is the best ever. We'll get a copy of it one way or another, whatever it takes. But yeah, so we've got all of that. And then obviously we end up with Homo sapiens sapiens when Enki tells us that he bred. So the tablets are in Columbia University, but I haven't seen tablets myself, but yeah, pretty much Moorhens have got it spot on, the translation. So then we have the Anunnaki breeding, Enki breeding with us, which we have the tablet called the Tala Adapa, where Adam, as you all know him, and Adam and Eve came out smarter because they were Homo sapiens, basically demigods from Enki. So that's where we ended up with the smarter Homo sapiens sapien 200,000 years later. So everything absolutely matches. And I go through this in great detail, far more detail than I can remember, in my book. So that's just, yeah, the book's good. I say that because I'd only been rereading it, obviously, the last few days, trying to tidy up the first book out of 2. That's how much evidence there is to destroy the Bible. And I don't mean to destroy the Bible. I don't want to destroy the Bible, but I'm just fed up with people saying Jesus loves you. Enough now. Especially when you watch the video where it shows you why Jesus was created. I mean, it's poetry in motion. The whole thing is just, to me, it's. I can see the whole narrative play out. It's beautiful, especially with the elongated skulls. Jesus probably had an elongated skull. I can pretty much put money on that he had an elongated skull because of why he was created and what he was supposed to do. And it's not me making it up. I'm going by the ancient. I'm going by the Bible and other stuff. Wait till the books comes out. You're gonna be all that. Video on why Jesus was created. Darwin's wrote, why the hell didn't YouTube notify me? It did for Kerry. Kerry got a notification, I think she said. I apologise on behalf of me for the YouTube not telling you. Sorry. Andy's wrote, what is your view on time dilation? Stories from past and Bible of people going into heavens. Well, the oldest time travel story is technically not a proper time travel story. It's an Indian one. You may have heard me mention it before. It's in one of the Vedas, where someone was picked up by aliens, goes to heaven, and when he finally returns, I think it's about 60. I can't remember if 60 or 300. I've got both of those in my head. Years later. And all his family got, so it's probably the 300. All his family's dead and everything. Technically, that's not time travel. Technically it is, but thank you, the Earth Lover. It's because obviously he, as you know, E equals MC squared, and that's to do with time is relative. So yes, he wasn't on Earth anymore, and so Earth carried on spinning, and he's at a place where the time wasn't spinning. He could have been inside a craft that may have had time dilation round it, like a warp core. Hard to know, but he obviously came back and told the story that all his family had gone and everything else. So that's the first sort of time travel. So when you look at it from that perspective, if you can go faster, not necessarily faster than light, because obviously these UFOs, from what I understand, don't go faster than light. But what they can do is go away from the gravity that it causes time. So by going away from a large object such as Earth, the further away you go, the time difference changes. So Earth will carry on, and the time will be running slower away from this large density object. So from that perspective, you can have time travel, but it's relative. So again, it goes back to Einstein's point. So it is relative. So to the person that's away from Earth, time is moving normal. You'll still be able to count 1, 2, 3. But here on Earth, when we're counting 1, 2, 3, we would have that 3 seconds would have to that person on the spaceship out in the middle of wherever would have been probably, a minute, but we don't know it as a minute because that's what. So time dilation. So, do I think time dilation is possible? I can't say no, obviously, because there's so many things we still don't know. We don't know a lot of things. I would say yes. I do think time dilation is real. I think you can have pockets of time where maybe even just like a plasma field around something, and so therefore that time is kept. There's a brilliant film, actually. It's a low budget film, but it's brilliant. It was called Time Trap. Go watch it, guys. Low budget, but really clever. And I don't want to spoil it, but if you watch the trailer, you'll see straight away what it's about. And it's basically a cave has basically a bubble around it, and everything in there is moving at a different rate to outside. So technically, that's time dilation. So yes, I do think time dilation is possible. Whether or not we've done it, whether or not we can control it to say, okay, I want to go back, in time, like H.G. Wells, or go forward in time for his time machine. I struggle with that, and I struggled with some of the stories from whistleblowers where they talk about that there's a door that has a shimmering effect on it, which they created, the military created, where they can go through and go back to a different time period. My worry with that is land moves up and down. In fact, just today they notified, they put out on a press release that a dinosaur footprints were found in the longest length of footprints were found here in England. Just today they've mentioned it. But it's in a quarry, and when you see the depth of where the footprints were from apparently 100 and something million years ago, I can't remember off the top of my head, I only skimmed it, but obviously land changes. You've got the mudslides, so land goes lower, land goes higher. So if you're going to have a door that you can walk through, you better be sure that door's not going to be blocked on the other side, like Stargate. Remember the old TV show? Sometimes there's a door that's covered over because it broke, or why is it always going to have to be, when you walk through, are you walking through exactly the same area that you're in? So, for example, Andrew Pishago said that he I think he's talking crap, but he said as a child his dad let him through this door to go back to the Gettysburg Address on his own. I mean, how stupid is that for any parent? So I think he's talking absolute crap. No logical parent, unless you want your kid dead, would allow their kid to go back in time and hope that his kid doesn't get killed in the Gettysburg Address in that era, and then find his way back, and not get bumped off by someone that didn't understand a word he was saying in modern English type thing, or American. So so anyway, now the thing is, when he said he went through, he ended up somewhere else. So not only is it time, he's saying that he could traverse to exactly where he wanted to. I mean, that's now, you're now not just pushing time, you're also pushing space, so time and space, which I personally don't think that's correct. I think I think if you're going to do a time like H.G. Wells, if you're going to do a time machine, you will end up being in the same place you're at. How the hell can you then create a wormhole to somewhere else at the same time as creating? I mean, it's possible, I guess, but I certainly don't believe Andrew Basiago letting his dad letting him go through that on his own. And then the Bible, you mentioned the Bible, people going into heavens. Obviously, heavens is split up because the Anunnaki at least had two heavens, one below the asteroid belt and one above. So that's in my book, as clear as day. As soon as you get that, you'll understand. But so heavens is obviously space. Yeah, so people do go up into heaven. So that's what you're saying, and then return 100 years later. Yeah, it's just time difference. It's because of time is relative, really. Kevin's wrote, I think for every knobby comment you get 3 good questions. It's a decent ratio. Thank you very much. Yeah, when we used to have, when TikTok didn't limit me, we used to have, a couple of hundred people sometimes, and yeah, it was the ratio certainly wasn't that. We'd have religious person, flat earther, religious person, normal person, and then it carries on again. Yeah, fun. Scrolling down, History and Coins. Right, hi boss, hi History and Coins. Hope you're well. I haven't sent you a message recently. I've been so preoccupied. I apologise. Darwin's wrote, it's sad when you're excited and there's 30 people in the live. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was hesitant to even do a live tonight. But I thought, if I do that video first to tell people to break the spell of TikTok and come and join. But I don't know if they'll even push the video out. So yeah, sad. I mean, Instagram, the videos are good there. Juices wrote, it's mutation. Thank you, guys. Mutations from Layla as well. Thank you. Yes, a bit late. Maybe you did pin it up and I wasn't looking. I was too busy crying in my deep despair of not remembering a bloody word. Which is... I was just thinking of what the school would have said about that. They would have said, you just about remember one word, let alone... Thank you guys for helping me. Yeah, it was mutation. Yeah, you're right. Real Silverness has put thumbs up. Juices wrote, I did. I'm guessing that's pin up. I apologise if someone did. Thank you, Juice, if you did. I probably was looking away, trying to figure out the word. Thank you, though. Quilla Hancock has wrote, it's the stuff they're spraying from the skies giving us memory loss. Well, that's totally possible, but also water, fluoride in the water is definitely doing it. I mean, there's so many institutions now that have actually said it causes Alzheimer's and dementia. So, the thing is, there was a study, and I knew this a long time ago. There was a study, I think in the late 80s, maybe very early 90s, and a newspaper article said that drinkers, in other words, people that go to pubs, drinkers are more likely to get Alzheimer's or dementia than people that don't drink alcohol. So they were pretending or assuming that it was to do with the alcohol. Now, I don't drink that much water. I don't know about you, but I know my dad never drank much water, but he drank like a fish in the pub. He, pints and pints and pints and pints and pints. So when I read that article, I knew it was to do with the water and it was to do with the fluoride. Because it was, someone's drinking far more amount of water than they would normally. So yeah, so it definitely does. But yeah, institutions, just type in and you'll see. Jazzers wrote, I can't pin comments. I don't know why. Maybe someone was pinning it at the same time or just about to pin it at the same time. Because Juice is saying pretty much almost at the same time. Maybe that was it. Juices wrote, gee whiz, give me first in the class. That's because you did write it's a mutation. Well, Juice, I don't normally give first in the class. You're going to hate me for this. I don't normally give. Hold on. Wait. Let me listen to the end of it. So I don't normally give first in class for someone pointing out something, but I do give them a gold star. So I'll assume that you said mutation before I remembered what the bloody word was. So in which case, you get a gold star, Juice. Do with it as you wish. It's not worth much, but for me, it's the best I can give. And it comes with love. Sean has wrote, I must get a copy of your book. Sean has wrote, name me your book, please. It's called, it's actually 2 parts because there's 15 chapters. I like to do 15 chapters in each book. There's 15 chapters in book 1 and 15 chapters in book 2. So that's how much information there is in it. I think chapter 1 is humongously long. So yes, it's called when it's released. It's called Almighty God. Dun dun dun. Strike me down. Or Anunnaki gods. It's quite simple. Almighty God or Anunnaki gods. And I try and be as fair as I can, but when you have 0 evidence of an Almighty God and you have 2 books worth of evidence of the Anunnaki, I try and be fair. I really do in the book. You'll see, I sort of say, well, would an Almighty being, because obviously there's no evidence whatsoever of an Almighty being. So I have to sort of guess and say, would an Almighty being want a cake? Because that's what's in the Bible. He asked for a cake. So, so I try and be as fair, but at the same time, I try and point, like I do here, I kind of, not sarcastic, but I kind of point out and say, well, would an Almighty being really have his dwelling right near Moses, so that once Moses has cooked the animals that for sacrifice for Jehovah, which would have been Enki, and Enki's dwelling is not too far away, bearing in mind this Almighty being's got to look after the whole universe, would he really be that close and want cake? Because he asked Moses to get him some cake. Thank you, History and Coins. So the book, I try and be as fair as I can, but let's be honest, it's ridiculous when you have nothing whatsoever to prove for an Almighty being, and you've got abundance of evidence. So yeah, Almighty God, which I had to put that in there. Thank you, Andy. I had to put that in there because obviously I wanted people to have something to say. Okay, because if I just wrote Anunnaki gods, half people don't even know what they are. So let's see how that plays out. But yeah, I think that like I say, if someone pulls up one thing. In fact, funny enough, I was going to put a quote at the front of the book. I did put in a quote, but I changed it from my own quote. And all I put originally for the quote was, all I need is just one of these things to be real. Meaning, out of 2 books worth, all I need is someone to verify 100%, even though I've got, the preponderance of evidence I've got. But if someone has a smoking gun for just one of the, Christ knows, probably more than thousands of bits of information that's, evidence, all I need is just one bit to prove that the Anunnaki were here, and that's it. But obviously, as a preponderance of evidence, it totally wins anyway. But thank you, History and Coins. Thank you for the man with the trumpet, or whatever that was. Custard has wrote, yay, nice one. I managed to get to see your live. Took a few clicks to get me here, which was annoying and strange. Okay, well, you've pretty much answered the question. That's how they limit me then. Thank you. Yeah, they definitely limit me. I mean, I should be 300,000 people, and most of those that follow me like what I talk about and probably want to ask at least one question. So it seems that, they're really making it difficult. Darwin's right. I will watch Time Trap. My daughter said it was thumbs down, but she wouldn't appreciate it. So yeah, the problem is it's a low budget film. So when I say low budget, it's not a £200 million film, and you can tell that straight away by the look of it and the not necessarily the acting. They didn't do a bad job, but my God, the story is brilliant. I loved it. Loved it. I've watched it a few times now and I still enjoy it. So if you've got that mindset of what's going to happen next, then you'll love it. If you've got that sort of, oh, I'm going to play on TikTok while while the movie's on, then it's probably not for you. But yeah, low budget, but I, there's films. What was I watching the other day? I turned something off the other day. Something with who was it? I can't remember. Some new thing on Netflix, some new film. I watched about 10-15 minutes of it with Keira Knightley in it. Something about a boat and someone gets murdered and that kind of crap. 15 minutes, I was bored crapless, just all nothing. You need a hook, and this is why I like this time trap. It had the hook straight away, and I was like, right, okay, you got me, good. Go with it, and it does. So yeah, so compared to that bigger budget crap that was on Netflix, Time Trap, absolute thumbs up from me. So hopefully you enjoy it. So watch it for what it is, and enjoy. Customers wrote, what's your book called? You mentioned it just after talking about the Anunnaki having 2 episodes. So it's called Almighty God or Anunnaki Gods. But I will absolutely let everyone know. My plan is, I'm off tomorrow to work on on the book 2 tomorrow. So book 1's pretty much done. Book 2 I need to work on tomorrow. With luck, by the weekend I'll be sending off non for sale copies. In other words, preview copies. So with luck, by Sunday I should be clicking that button and saying, right, give me my preview copies, which will then take about a week or so for it to turn up. Then I have to read the books again. Boring. So once I've done that, then I can. But in between that, the next week I'll be creating trailers, adverts, all that kind of stuff ready, and then I'll put a pre-release date up, because what I've found in life, especially with movies, if you say to someone, "Oh, there's a really good film coming out about," let's just pretend it's Anunnaki. There's a really good movie coming out about Anunnaki. It comes out, 2 months. Oh, cool. Look forward to seeing that. If I suddenly said to you, forget that for a moment. So if I just suddenly said to you, oh, there's a really good movie out now called Anunnaki, you'd say, oh, okay. You lose the excitement. Oh, it's already out. Didn't hear about it. Yeah, that's because it's probably crap then if you didn't hear about it. So you have to have the hype, unfortunately. So I've got to do that to try and get. So I've got to put a pre-release date in advance. But at that point, I can then get copies in early before the pre-release date and send them off to my family here on TikTok. You know who you are. DDB has wrote, why was we created? So the Anunnaki, so there was, I'm assuming you mean us Homo sapiens / Homo sapiens sapiens. So the Anunnaki came here, was mining for gold. It was hard work. The Ajiji, we have a tablet called the Atrahasis, which is in the British Museum, that tell us that the Ajiji found it very hard work. Turns out, wait for it, for the thousands of years that they worked, it was 6 months. So in our time, it was nearly 2,000 years, maybe give or take 1,500 years. In their time, if they slept for 30 days and 30 nights, it was just 6 months. But they still found that hard work, because obviously, they didn't bring, they don't have infrastructure here. They didn't have railroad tracks to take the ore out of the mines. They didn't have, they didn't have canteen. They didn't have anything. Roads, flat road. They didn't have anything. So imagine you going over with 300 people to Africa and trying to trying to dig for mines, and you may have some tech with you, but you're still going to find it hard work, and that's exactly how it played out for them. So they got annoyed that they were doing all the hard work. The heroes, these are the Ajiji. The amount of people that I won't tell you what I want to do to them, but TikTok will limit me even more. But let's just say I don't like the people that lie and say that the Ajiji were a slave race, and sometimes people even say they were created by the Anunnaki. They freaking weren't. They were their sons. I've totally proven that. Says it in the Artrahasas as well. Why do you fear our sons? It says to Enlil. Enlil says it. I can't remember who it was. It might have been a vizier or Enki or something. But why do you fear our sons? Oh, crazy! It says it. So anyway, because the Ajiji didn't want to carry on working, they found it hard work. Because obviously the older gods were not living it up a bit, but they were doing less work than the younger ones. And, so you could see how sort of teenagers would be rebellious, and they did. They were rebellious, and they did go and complain to Enlil, who was the main god at the time. And I say god, that's a race name. Translates to the race name, gods. Oh, God. Enki comes up with the... Well, Zachariah Sitchin and the Moorhens say that Enki comes up with the idea. However, the tablet called Enki and Nimna gives the impression that it was his mum's idea. Because he says to his mum after she wakes him up, this is Enki, and he says to his mum, Mother, the idea, words to this effect, I'm paraphrasing, the idea that you come up with about creating these creatures to carry the baskets. So he's talking to his mother, and it was her idea, it sounds like. So I'd be interested to see generally the other tablets. So basically, Zachariah Sitchin got his information from the Moorhens. Not all of it, but the missing parts, and that would be one of the missing parts. So I'd love to have seen the original translations of the Moorhens, because the Moorhens also slightly paraphrased to make it understandable to us, because when I read out or use AI to read out, when I say AI, the voice AI, not ChatGPT, but the voice to read out a tablet so you guys can hear it without having to read it yourself. Sometimes it's quite complicated because it'll say lines 1 to 10, and then it'll say Enki did this, Enki did that, blah blah blah, and then lines 20 or 11 to 20, fragmented, missing, blah blah blah. And so the Moorhens and Zachariah Sitchin with the tablets that he could translate or could use the translations from, paraphrased in the gaps. So it's understandable. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. But yeah, so long story short, they need someone smarter to help carry the baskets. Literally, the tablet tells us carry the baskets. So we know that the Ajiji probably were in there, guiding the first Homo sapiens to do menial tasks, and it had to be menial because if you go with the Moorhens translations, the foreman, yes, I know that the word foreman was translated, the foreman had to literally shout at the Homo sapiens for them to even understand, go left, go right. So there is a difference between the African, I say African, it's going to come across racist, it's not, but the African Homo sapiens compared to the Homo sapiens sapiens, which didn't really end up going to Africa, so they were Middle East. Some Homo sapiens were taken from Africa and were slaves in the Middle East, etc. Andy wrote, Anunnaki use eagle's head on helmets. Are they indigenous to here or Nibiru? So it's an interesting question. Go number one in the class. I have thought that myself because the translations are of eagle's helmets, and of course we've got carvings, in Sumerian, and we've even got carvings in Egypt of people wearing masks, which look like animals and stuff like that. So the description. See, the funny thing is, the description of the suit, according to Moorhen's, the spacesuit, is called a fish suit. I don't know why it's called a fish suit, but it's called a fish suit, apparently, according to the Moorhens. So this is the spaceship suit that they wore, was called a fish suit with an eagle helmet. So, is it just a description of an eagle's helmet? Now, the problem is we do have the carvings with eagles' faces on top of an Anunnaki body. So we kind of know that it's not just a metaphor for a helmet. It looks like it is an actual shape of a creature such as an eagle. So did they have eagles over on their planet? More than likely they had birds. I would imagine they would have had birds. They didn't have snakes. They didn't have anything but didn't have legs, apparently. Make of that as you will. I mean, think about it. How many creatures, slugs, snakes? There's not too many that don't have legs, really, thinking about it off the top of my head. So, okay, so maybe they did have creatures that had no legs, but they evolved eventually to have legs. And, of course, by the time the Anunnaki came around with their, bigger brains and understanding, comprehension, these slimy creatures that would have slithered may have just evolved, so they may have had them but didn't know about them. So the question is, would the eagle's helmet actually have been designed after a bird on their planet? Now, they did have a phoenix on their planet. That's where the word phoenix comes from their creature from their planet. Now, they used it here as well. They even, in Sumerian languages, here on Earth, they talk about a phoenix. Now, we all know the phoenix, the story of the phoenix. Hopefully you all know it. So you've got to ask yourself, was that story anything to do with the Anunnaki? And it probably was. Because I've never seen a phoenix. And, obviously they're extinct, but so is the dodo bird. But if you go back to people talking about phoenixes, maybe I should look into that. But obviously we do know the Anunnaki spoke about the phoenix a few times, so we know that they're referring to a bird that can fly. So we know that they have birds on their planets based off of the phoenix here that they're referring to also on their home planet. So with that in mind, they did have creatures that flew. So then would the eagle helmet have been a phoenix? Probably not, otherwise they would have called it phoenix helmet. So that leaves then a bird with the similar features of what we have here on Earth as an eagle. And did they call what we have as an eagle because they have an eagle on their planet, but maybe just ever so slightly different? I mean, look at parrots. Christ knows how many different styles of parrots you've got. So could they have just said, wow, this looks like an eagle from our planet, let's call it an eagle here? And it could be as simple as that. And so when they're referring to sorry, something just popped up. When they're referring to the eagle helmet, could they have been just talking about their bird on? But again, would you really have a shape of an eagle as a helmet? Illogical, really, because obviously if he was in a crash, having a point in any shape on a helmet isn't a great idea. So again, you end up going around in circles, and this is why I said I thought about it, but I can never get to an answer, because the logic of having something sticking out in front of you for a helmet to breathe underwater or in space it doesn't seem to sit right with me. It seems a bit silly. So I can't answer it, I'm afraid, but I do think they had birds on their planet from everything that I've read. Hi, History and Coins.
Hey boss, I was just coming up to see if it helped with the numbers.
Hi, History and Coins.
Hello. I just came up to see if it helped with your numbers. That was all.
Oh, right, good idea. Oh, right, okay, thank you. Well, yeah, interesting idea. Okay, we'll see what happens. Thank you.
No worries.
Andy's wrote, or both. Yeah, so that was finishing off that question. Juices wrote, finally, yay. I'll take that star. I'll stick it in my cheek. Thank you. Wasn't there an old song? I'm showing my age now. Pick a star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. Yes, I can't sing. Yes, I have limits. That's why TikTok limits me. Kevers wrote, I think I got first in class once for asking if the Anunnaki had UV vision. Possibly, yeah. Unfortunately, I can't remember everything, but well done if you did. Not many people go to top of the class. So if you did, well done. It was a good question. I mean, it's a very fair question because there is. The more I learn, the more I'm believing that some of them had red eyes, which suggests sort of like the albino side, which really does make it interesting. History and Coins wrote, can all of our Jewish mods please pin me for the mods Discord? Okay, hopefully they've read that. Shayers wrote, is Marduk still alive? The logic says absolutely should still be alive. So the problem was we don't really know 100% what age he was when he first came to Earth. So we could assume, bearing in mind he was slightly classed as an Ajiji, so we could probably give him an 18-year age. I mean, I could be totally wrong. We have no idea what the Ajiji's age is, but you would think that they were teenagers. So if we go along with that assumption, Marduk was 18, and it's been about 430,000 years, give or take, since he was here. So if you do the math, he'd probably be about 50 now. So there's no reason for him not to be. Again, do the math, and you'll probably find me totally out. But he's not an old age pensioner. So with that in mind, unless he has, been shot or killed or disease or something that's took him out the game early, old age wouldn't be what's done it. So he should still be alive. The problem we've got is what's happening at the moment. Now, there was a guy called Tommy Robinson that was quizzed by police, and he said that the police, this was only yesterday, or yesterday he said it, but he said that the police asked him what he knows about, wait for it, the Great Replacement. Now, Tommy is, stands up for white girls getting abused by certain groups. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's difficult to say here without getting TikTok on my back. But there's a certain religion that is, and have said that they will take over the whole planet. So when you have the police who are trying to shut this person up, Tommy, but asking him about the Great Replacement, you start to think, hang on a minute, is that part of this plan? Which I knew it was anyway. I've said it. So, so you've got the Great Reset and you've got the Great Replacement. But the replacement part is interesting because from my perspective, I do think that obviously if Marduk was around and knew what was going on, he'd probably stop it because his people were the Christians. Stroke Catholics as well, technically, because the Catholics ended up, even though they won't tell you this, they did. They ended up worshipping or started to worship the pantheon of Enlil's family and then moved over to to Marduk, because obviously he basically said, oh, you wait to the books got even more evidence of that kind of stuff in it. So anyway, I can't remember all off the top of my head, but it's in there. So has something happened where Marduk is incapacitated, not around, and one of the other gods? Now, Nurgle, I have come across a tablet which I didn't know about. Nurgle who didn't like Enlil. Listen to this. So you're going to love this. So Nurgle was his brother. At one point, Nurgle flew with Ninurta to go around and try and kill Marduk with the 7 weapons of terror. So nukes, basically. Now, I didn't know what happened after that. I didn't have any tablets or anything. Whether or not they got back as friends or brothers or amicable terms. What happened when Marduk was given the rank of 50? Did Nurgle, Nurgle's evil. I mean, out of all the Anunnakis, you got Nurgle and Inanna, but Nurgle is the worst. Trust me, and I'll tell you why in a sec. If you've not already read the tablets, so I read tablets, which is now more modern. In other words, after the weapons of terror, Nurgle. So Marduk was in charge. He was called King of Kings in this tablet. Brilliant tablet. I've put an audio up on. It will drop in the next week or so on my Patreon page. But Nurgle had 7. 7 is hard to describe. 7 weapons at his disposal. So this isn't the same 7 nukes, but he had 7 weapons. And they were talking to him, which is kind of weird because it makes you then think, well, but when you realise what the Anunnaki's like, they talk about inanimate objects as alive. You just look at the planets and everything, how the planets were. So wait for it. So Nurgle one day gets told, oh, you shouldn't be this, that, and the other. So he goes to Marduk, so we know this is after that, and he says, King of Kings, leader, basically God, main God, whatever you want to call it. So great, I finally found out that after the weapons of terror, everyone understood that Marduk was the main god. So we're looking at probably 2000 BC, maybe something like that. Now Marduk. So Nurgle says to Marduk, look, I want to. People have become disrespectful to humans, blah blah blah, to us gods. So probably even 1000 BC, when you look at it that, because obviously the gods had changed from pantheon of gods looking after each area to just now Marduk looking after everything, which he didn't really do, and then some of the gods were fighting each other and blah blah blah. So Nurgle says, I want to go and teach these humans a lesson. I was like, okay, this is cool. So he says, I want to basically destroy the humans and stop them from being noisy. Again, they use that word noisy. Wait for the book to come out about the Bible. I break it down. There's a passage in the Bible which you can translate into the word noisy, which is fantastic because the Arthur also talks about humans being noisy. So in other words, it matches. Oh, it's a good book. So anyway, so Marduk says, okay, go on then. Finally, didn't want to. So Marduk wasn't, go destroy humans. Finally, after a lot of persuading from Nurgle, he said, okay, go ahead. He said, but do not touch my territory, which would have been Babylon. Do not touch my people there at all, because he's always had Babylon right from day one. So Nurgle says, okay, as you wish. So he goes off, and he's got an aide with him. Thank you, History and Coins. He's got an aide as well, Vizier, whatever you want to call him. And so they go off, and Nurgle starts bombing this place that he's said that to Marduk that he's going to go and bomb. Then he says, "Oh, I'm not done yet," and his aide says, "No, that's enough. So he goes and bombs somewhere else and totally destroys it. And his aide, I call him his aide, Vizier, whatever you want to call him, says, no, don't do any more, don't do any more. So he does loads and loads more. And the gods, which were, Enki, So Enki, was it Enki? I can't remember if it was Enki. Sorry, I should have really paid attention to that. I know Enlil was there. Enlil was there, so I can't say whether Enki was there. So Enki may have been dead by that point. Because if Enki wasn't there, I need to just go. I'll double check that. But that will give me a time frame. Anyway, so the gods all were chatting to each other, saying, "What do we do about Nurgle? He's going around, destroying the planet." So they were frightened of Nurgle. So long story short, finally Nurgle starts to destroy Marduk's place, and his vizier says, "Stop! You said you wouldn't. You swore you wouldn't." So this is what Nurgle's like. He says, "But I've got it in me. I need to destroy." Finally, Nurgle gets called up in front of Marduk and some of the other Anunnaki and says, "Stop now. You're destroying everything. There's no people left. There's no food. If there's no food, then the gods die. We die." So, long story short, he finally says, "Okay, I won't do it no more. But the people that's left need to know that I am the man. I'm the main god. Not main god as in Marduk's main god, but main god as in I am the man. They should fear me. I'll come and I'll kill them all," type thing. So that's what happened. So Nurgle, cannot be trusted. And it makes you wonder what I can't remember what Nurgle's symbol is. So going back to the whole point of what we was talking about, your question, is Nurgle anything to do with what's going on at the moment? There's me thinking it was Nana and Inanna, which was father and daughter. It could actually be Nurgle because he's that type of person. So yeah, I need to. There's lots of research I've got to do. Sorry to answer your question like that, but Marduk technically should still be alive. To answer your question, it's a cat's life. As wrote, "Hi History, hi chat, hi. It's a cat's life. I hope you're relaxing and doing whatever a cat does." Andy's wrote, "Got time trap queued for after the live." Yeah, just look at it for what it is, obviously, but just enjoy the story. It's a good story, clever. I enjoyed it. Sherry's wrote, "Hi there, hi Sherry, nice of you to join." I always worry whether I pronounce it wrong, and I always remember you keep saying it's fine, but I probably always will still worry. Cherie, I think it's Cherie, wasn't it? Cherie's wrote, "I just got through pointing a bunch of people in your direction." Oh, well, thank you very much. They probably won't be able to join the live because TikTok limits me, as you guys know. We're at 40 at the moment. 50 seems to be the max they allow at the moment. But thank you, Cherie. Custard, as well, "I think we should like and share the live and see what happens. Who's in?" Oh, bless. Yeah, we won't get any more than 50. We really have done so many of these for a year or two now. Nothing happens. Darwin's wrote, "Low budget comedy horror, The Wolf in Snow. Horror, loved it. Time Trap now on my watch list." I've never heard of. I don't really watch horrors. I like, and you probably guessed by the films that I will name, I like things that make me think. Whereas I did like, what was it called? Final Destination, the first one, because it made me think, but obviously the second one was just carried on pretty much. But Cherie is right. "I do this quite often, actually. Sending people my way." Oh, thank you. I was just had to read back what it was that you said. Thank you, Cherie. That's really nice of you. Such a shame that TikTok spoils it for everyone. Boo, TikTok, boo. Keycut has wrote, "Snakes, worms, eels don't have legs." Yeah, there's not that many in the big scheme of things. I mean, when you consider how many other creatures have got 4 legs, 2 legs, 8 legs, 100 legs, millipedes and centipedes and stuff. So there's not that many creatures, that you'll come across on a day-to-day trip that has no legs. So I can kind of see why they may not have them on their planet, I guess. But thank you, yes. I mean, technically eels are aquatic, so you probably wouldn't see them, because then you could argue, well, fish don't have legs either, I suppose. I mean, there might be some eels that go on to land. Octopuses technically have legs, I guess. That's classed as legs. Scrolling down, Darwin's wrote hello history and coins. Ellie's wrote just joined. Hello, hi Ellie, nice of you to join. I'm surprised TikTok even let you on, because that's what they're like. But welcome. Juices wrote A for effort. You will make an excellent lip syncer if you ever stuck. I'll put a good word in for you. Sorry, I was trying to read that. Yeah, so basically, Juice does these videos where she'll get a snippet of a film or a song or something and lip syncs to it, but does it in a comical way. And I enjoy watching them. Don't give up, Juice. I enjoy it. Andy wrote, "Who was the first Anunnaki to be born on Earth?" Oh, that's a good question. There is an answer to that. There is. There is an answer. I know there's an answer. I've read it. I want to say Inanna, or Ninurta, because Ninurta was the son of, but I think she brought down Ninurta. He was a baby, young. No, Ninurta. Yeah, so Ninurta is Enlil and Sud's son. So he was young. I think forgive me, but it's either Inanna or Ninurta. One of those two. I'm pretty sure it's one of those two. Darren's wrote, but why would a normal police officer ask this? Curious. Yeah, because when you realise, well, you probably know that a lot of them to do with the Masons and stuff like that, and cults and corruptness. So there's something going on for sure. Oronagun has put a thumbs up. Hi, Oronagun. Nice of you to join. Custer's wrote, does anyone else keep experiencing quiet parts happening in this live? And then History and Coins has wrote, occasionally. And then Juices wrote, sorry,
Every now and then you cover the mic. Every now and then you're covering your mic by accident.
Probably. I forget. I put my little finger underneath the phone sometimes, and I forget that the mic's not at the front of a phone like they used to be back in the olden days. There's a little hole somewhere, and I probably put my little finger right on it. I apologise, everybody. It's my fault. Just call me a numpty. Seriously, call me a numpty. My bad. I won't do it again. I probably will. Scrolling down, Shay has wrote, thank you. No, thank you, Shay. Thank you for even joining. Zippy's wrote, hi, regarding Horus, was there two of that name, one very tall? So if you're referring to the Greek, I can't even call him Egyptian, I can't even call him a demigod, because he technically wasn't a demigod. If you're referring to Horus as in Osiris and Isis's son, as far as I know, there was only one true Horus, and his original name, proper name, is Horon. So we actually have tablets that tell us a story about Horus and Osiris, etc., in Sumerian, not just Greek, not just Egypt. So as far as I'm aware, there was only one Horon, but you know, a lot of names do get reused. I mean, look, Emetep II, Emetep III, you can get the idea. So a lot of names get reused. So it's totally possible there was another Horus or Horon that I've not read about because it's probably not really connected to the Anunnaki directly. So there totally could be, but not that I'm aware of. Sorry, I know it's probably not your answer you was looking for. Darwin's right. I love horror. You had to work out who the werewolf was. There you go. Just tell me, and that ends the whole film. No, I'm joking. Oh, no, yeah, no, okay, all right. Well, if that's what you like, cool. Zippy's wrote, was there two of the name Horus? Many thanks. Hopefully you just heard me reply. I can't give you a definitive answer because I mainly look at things connected with aliens and that kind of stuff and the Anunnaki. But, there's obviously loads of pharaohs and loads of things that I don't know about. So I don't know everything about ancient Egypt because some of that's not really relevant to the stuff that I research. So I can't answer 100%, but they certainly had the same names over and over. Nicole's wrote, Outer History, did the Anunnaki worship anything? Me. They did, honest. Sorry. Like certain animals, for example. Did they worship? Not worship. Not worship. They. I can't even. I was going to say revered, but not even the case. We know that cats were important in Egypt. We know that scarab beetles were important in Egypt, because of the mummification and stuff like that. But the Anunnaki themselves, while they had the celestial symbols, so Marduk was a bull, if I'm not mistaken, and Enlil was a ram, if I'm not mistaken, that kind of thing. They didn't really worship anything that I've ever read. So I would probably say no. I mean, if anything, we worship them. And I can't see, with their, they did have an ego. With their ego, they probably wouldn't have wanted to worship something else. But yeah, no, I've never come across anything. Good question. Got number 3 in the class for that. Juice has wrote, thank you, boss. Thank you, Juice. Keep doing what you're doing. Andy's wrote, back on Nibiru, at some point Anunnaki had 4 legs, natural or genetic. Well, according to the Moorhen translations, I sent it to you, didn't I? So hopefully you listened to it, and they did talk about 4-legged Anunnaki or 4-legged gods on their home planet looking after the animals, which is weird because technically if you've got 4 legs you would think you're an animal. So, and of course we have centaurs here that they created. So did they create centaurs back on their home planet and use them just to look after the livestock? Which would be a very clever idea because you wouldn't need sheepdogs, you would be the sheepdog. So the logic, knowing that they could genetically modify creatures, pretty much, we're talking 150,000 years, give or take 145,000 years after they came here, they genetically modified Neanderthal using their own essence. Plus, Enki had already been tinkering, so 145,000 years will probably be, I don't know, I'm not great at maths, let's just say 10 years of our time, or their time, sorry. So, in other words, they already knew how to do genetics, because you don't suddenly learn that in 10 years, or do you? Here on a planet where you don't have the resources, etc., the chances are they probably already were tinkering on their home planet. That's my conclusion on that. So in which case, would the half Anunnaki and half horse on their home planet, or animal that looks like a horse, I guess a description, the closest I can say is a horse. Well, they called it four-legged creature, but because we have centaurs, or they had centaurs here, I'm guessing it's like a horse. So could they have genetically created those? Absolutely. I mean, we've got mermaids that they've done. They've got the Minotaur. We've got griffins, hydras, chimeras. The long list of hybrided creatures that they created here. Not necessarily Cyclops. That could have literally have been a deformation, but obviously you can't deform into a half a horse unless you've got some horse DNA in you. So. Whereas at least with one eye, we know that's a thing called cycloplia, which is a mutation or deformation. So it's a good question, Andy. Go number 2 in the class. I would say genetically created for the betterment of their society. That's what I think. So I think they probably created them thinking, this will help down the line and put them to work looking after the animals. If you're that way inclined, you can quite easily destroy, eradicate a whole species, as they tried to do with us with the Great Flood, and quite happily let Nurgle go around and blow up things, quite happily let Ninurta and Nurgle go around with the nukes. When you're that way inclined to not have that much empathy or sympathy, then creating hybrid creatures, even if they come out deformed and die, isn't, the morality of them. I mean, bearing in mind Enki would sleep with his children and his children's children and his children's children. So the morality of them is different from us. So creating a hybrid creature, even from their own, such as, the Dingir, which is what they were called, suggests to me that yes, they probably did create their own creatures, and yes, the mermen and women that we see, mermaids that we see on the Sumerian carvings, which were half Anunnaki and half fish, more than likely were half man, half fish in some capacity. If they've got the ability to do all of that, they probably did. Nicole's right. Where does the word Lucifer come from? Is it a direct translation from the tablets? No, it was a Greek word that basically the Greeks translated the morning star into Lucifer. So it goes way, way back to the Greeks for the word Lucifer. It wasn't even called Lucifer. So it's very similar to the word Lucifer. It was Lucifanara or something like that, which eventually got translated into Lucifer. So no, that wasn't even his name. I know his name. I have dinner with him. No, I know his name. Kerry's. I think I've told Kerry who it was. So I think Kerry's the only other person that knows what I know. And I'll be doing a video for Christmas Eve, so you will actually find out who he is, what his real name is, what he did, why he did it, why he was kicked out, and what happens to him. Basically, it's got everything perfect. Right time frame, you name it, perfect. So yeah, but Lucifer wasn't his name at all. We actually have his name. Darwin's wrote, I never thought of that, thank you. I can't remember what that was, but that's cool. Zippy's wrote history and coins with a thumbs up. I'm guessing that's coming up on the live chat, I'm guessing. Maybe, I don't know. But it's a good idea. Zippy's wrote, regarding tarot cards, where did they originate? I did look into it. I've got a video or an audio on my Patreon page, which is only a couple of pound, where I did go into where tarot cards come in. But basically, it goes way, way, way back. Possibly even Sumerian, where they had cards that they would read out for a good day or a bad day. It was basically as simple as that. But it sort of stems from the the oracles where they would, throw chicken bones down, where they would drink tea leaves. The tea leaf, that kind of, where they would look at the entrails of an animal and then say, oh, it's going to be a good day or it's going to be a bad day. So it kind of originated from that, and then different tribes around the world either picked up on it or was taught the same thing. And so you have some tribes throw stones down, some tribes throw bones down, some tribes, around the world, and eventually people's kind of forgotten doing that now. There's a few places with shamans probably still does it, but we don't bother anymore. But yeah, so it's basically a derivative off of, whether you think you're going to have a good day or a bad day. So instead of throwing stones down, there was cards. Some there was even places that did twigs, sticks and stuff, that they would read those. So yeah, nothing too. And then people would put their own designs on the cards, and as time grew on, they made them more fancy and far more intricate in terms of what you could read from a card. But yeah, so nothing. Personally, I don't think it's really works myself. Just because when you look at, cutting open an animal and looking at its insides. Even the problem was the Anunnaki had oracles that did that, and of course the Anunnaki technically should be smarter than us. So if they're doing it, then you'd think, well, hang on a minute. If they're smart and they're doing that and they're believing it, then maybe there's something to it. But at the same time, they called planets alive, and they gave them personalities, and they even said what these planets would talk about and all sorts of stuff. So you realise, well, hang on a minute, they're not that smart. So there is I do struggle with the Anunnaki, because in some ways they're smart, and in other ways they seem backwards. It's a tricky one. I guess you could argue that some of the things that they did benefited them, certainly like certain religions, where people would never give up their religion because it benefits them, if you know what I'm referring to. So I'm wondering whether the Anunnaki were like that. They just stuck with the same thing regardless of how stupid it is, because it benefited them in some way that we maybe don't know. Jane has wrote 9 p.m. Thank you, Jane, for the time check, goddess. Zippy's wrote, how would or what tools did the Anunnaki use to predict the future? So it was the main one was cutting open a kid, which was a baby goat, not a child, and reading its intestines and entrails. That was the main one that they did. Then they also had people that supposedly could tell the future, so oracles on their home planet. And then they would create, using the MEs, they would create oracles here on Earth, which is interesting. Now, whether or not those oracles worked here on Earth, whether or not they became soothsayers down the line, hard to say. But yeah, so basically, the first one was cutting open, and they clearly do it. It's not something you would suddenly think of. It must have been done over time. So I have a feeling that they probably do the same thing on their home planet, which didn't really help them much, because obviously they got into a war that's so bad, and they got into a state with their planet's atmosphere that they even had to come here. So, I would sack the people that's trying to read the animals' insides, because it's clearly not doing a great job. It probably could tell them what was going to happen the next day. It was going to rain or whatever, but solving the biggest problems that they had, where the two warring factions were annihilating each other, and then also having the volcanoes stop apparently, and the atmosphere dwindling. Yeah, those would have been the first things I would have tried to solve with cutting open, if I was to read insides. So again, they're not. That's what they said. And I've read that many times with the cutting open the animals and trying to read the future. Sean has wrote, do you think the Anunnaki planet Nibiru, I think, atmosphere survive or still alive, or do you think the Anunnaki will ever return to Earth? So, Anunnaki never left. There's no Marduk wouldn't have went back. He was put in charge. There's no way he was going to go back. And let's imagine he did go back. It would have only been 4 months of his time since he went back, since King Solomon. So there's no. They didn't leave. He didn't spend 400,000 of our years trying to be someone, and then finally get given the whole planet, and then say, right, well, I'm off now. So no, he's here. If he's alive, he's here. Some of the other Anunnaki are probably still here as well. There's no benefit for them going back now. They've got lives. They pretty much stayed on Earth most of their life now. So to go back and be, nobody, whereas here, they've got servants. Whereas back on Nibiru, some of them, especially non-royals, will probably have nothing. They'll have to go and do the work for themselves. Whereas here, we're probably, doing everything for them. When I say we, there's probably slaves that they've still got that the military know about, or the elites know about. So, did their atmosphere survive? Well, it's only been, of their time, it's only been 3 years, 4 years, 3 years, 3.5 years, give or take, since the Great Flood of our time, which was 10,000 BC, so roughly 12,000 years ago. So, with that in mind, their planet probably hasn't had the atmosphere dwindle yet, again, but they did say that they would get enough gold to have reserves. So whether or not we're still mining gold for them for that reserve or not, I do think their planet's still available, active, and the people haven't died out in 3.5 of their years. So yes, I think their planet's all still good. Zippy's wrote, did the Anunnaki trust their dreams in dream state? Cheers. Yes. Well, the ones that I've read, yes, they did. And even Adam and Eve had a dream where Eve dreamt that one of her sons, was going to get killed, which was Abel. So she got up in the morning and took Adam and went looking for him and found him, and yes, lo and behold, exactly as a dream was. So they believed that. There was another dream which Dumuzi had, but he ended up killing himself because of the dream. He dreamt that he was going to get attacked by Marduk's thugs and killed. So he'd done a runner, slipped on he was crossing a waterfall, and slipped and fell into the water and died. So that prophecy didn't really come true, because obviously he killed himself. So was it just a dream? So it's a hard one. Then you got Enlil having his dream with Galzu. So yes, they did put some weight behind the dreams that they think were dreams or possibly premonitions. Darwin's right. I think you have already answered this, but why interbreed? Did they have deformities? So yes, someone has asked this before. I can't remember who. So the question is, why interbreed? So before they had two halves of their planet that was at war for the longest time, literally almost wiped each other out by the sounds of it. When they decided to join forces, one woman from I'll call it the south, one woman from the south and one man from the north would marry. So the very first king and queen on Nibiru were forged out of the union of this war. After that, they had a rule put in, and they're very sticklers for their rules. They had a rule put in saying that it was called a line of succession. So if a king married a woman she could have a kid, and that kid would be next in line for succession. If the king had a concubine and had a kid first, that kid would be in line of succession, unless the king had a wife that then had a kid after, such as Enki and Enlil, Enlil being the son of a proper Anunnaki wife, as opposed to Enki, who was the son of a concubine with the king. And then they decided somewhere along the line that if the offspring, obviously way down the line, if the offspring of the offspring could have kids, then that would supersede the normal wife, because it's now the bloodline is more pure than some stranger coming from somewhere else and marrying a king. So it got to that sort of situation where they ended up keeping the bloodline pure, which is why we've got the royals doing exactly the same thing. They gave us the crown and scepter. They tell us that. So we know where the whole bloodline of the royals come from. So with that, they inbred, basically, and the closer they could get to having kids. So Enki tried to breed with his half-sister Nimna, so that his child would actually be next in line for the throne of Nibiru. But what happened was Enlil ended up breeding. She didn't have kids with Enki, couldn't have kids or whatever, didn't have kids. So Enlil, who was the half brother of Enki, bred with his half sister, the same half sister that Enki tried to breed with, and did have a kid, and that was Ninurta, and thus Ninurta is next in line for Nibiru. So you can see why they inbred. It wasn't because of anything other than... So the other Anunnaki that are not royals, would they inbreed? Hard to say. I've never read anything about whether they were inbreeding with their cousin or brother or sister or whatever. Because obviously they're less important, so there's hardly any tablets on them. So your guess is as good as mine as whether they've decided to do the same thing. There's no point in doing it, really, unless you really loved each other, I guess. But from the point of view of the royalty, that's the reason. Now, talking about deformations by inbreeding with the Anunnaki, I can't say there is. I've never read anything where, but of course they sent down the Anunnaki down to Earth, so they're not going to send, without sounding rude, they're not going to send deformed Anunnaki to come and save their planet. They're going to send the best of the best, whether it's mentally or physically. They'll send the best of the best logically. So does that mean that there is deformed people on their planet? Totally possible. Now there is one little trick that may give us an answer to whether or not they do have deformities. So when Alula bit off King Anu's private part and swallowed it, apparently the stuff that's inside the bit, I mean, how big was his mouth and how small was his thing, I don't know, but it's I don't know whether he took the meat and two veg, or whether it was just the two veg, or whether it was just the meat, or what, or whether they had three veg, I don't know. But he swallowed it, and whatever was inside that poisoned Alula. And the question is, if someone here on Earth would do it to to a man here on Earth, would that person be poisoned? If not, in other words, if it's just going to make him sick and that's about it, after swallowing another man's part, then has the physiological, is there something slightly biological difference with the Anunnakis, shall we say, army of soldiers in the fruit and veg department? Are they different? In which case, are they susceptible to deformations by inbreeding? I'm just throwing it out there because of that comment about it being him being poisoned. So, is that going to stop the any kind of inbreeding issues. Was it genetic? Did they deliberately do that somewhere along the line so that they could breed with their families so that they don't have, they're obviously more technologically advanced in medical terms. So could they have done something to each male, certainly in the royal side of it, so that he could breed with and not have deformations of children? Or did they get rid of any children that did have deformations and we just don't know about them? Maybe they were that way. So there's a lot of ifs and buts, so I can't answer it, but go number 3 in the class for the question. Shares wrote...
Sorry, can I help with the one about the fact of swallowing the man's meat and veg? It's usually caused from an allergic reaction. That's the only way that could actually happen. With medical training, the only way that you can die from that is through an allergic reaction.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm kind of worried to ask how...
Sorry, the phone went off.
No worries, I'm kind of worried to know who... how that question came about in the medical society, but okay.
I did research on it when I was training.
All right, okay. All right, no, sorry, it's just a weird thing to look into. I'm not knocking you at all, I'm just saying it's a weird thing. I probably would never have thought of looking into that.
No problems.
All right, thank you. There you go. So according to History and Coins, it will... if you have an allergic reaction to it, I guess I would certainly have an allergic reaction to swallowing anything like that. Shares wrote, was Lucifer actually Alula? No, he wasn't. Good, nice try, but no. No, he wasn't. So Lucifer was around, I don't want to spoil it, but Lucifer was around a few thousand years ago, shall we say. Alula went... hundreds of thousands of years ago, so no, the two totally different. But I can see why you would say that, but no, I mean, if anyone, I would have thought it would have been Anzu, but it's not. It's you'll see the video and you'll go, that's clear as day. Why the hell hasn't anyone else on this whole planet ever worked that out? But when you know the answer, you'll say, but you have to kind of know stuff before. So in other words, for me to have known how I worked it out, who Lucifer was, I'm just spoiling it here, but how I worked it out was I knew who his mum was and I knew what she did with certain people and who she was going out with. And so with that, when I was researching, I was like, they had a son, didn't know that. What does his son do? Bang, 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 all the same things Lucifer would have done. Absolutely. So yeah, all the right time frame, everything, perfect. So yeah, so it was only really because I knew stuff about his mum that I could piece it together. So I guess not everyone would have probably worked all that out. So again, yay me. But yeah, the video will come out. Sorry if I can't tell you now, but you will get the answer to who Lucifer was. So one of the biggest questions on the whole planet, I guess, is who Lucifer was. It's solved, along with loads of... If you've not seen my other videos, feel free to watch them. Gary's wrote, "Sir, why do people say bless you after someone sneezes?" Oh, bless you for asking that question, Gary. I think it's... I don't know. I've never looked into that. There's probably people out there that do look into those sort of words, but that one I've not looked into, so maybe just asked ChatGPT or something. Not ChatGPT, that lies to me all the time. It's a filthy hobbitses, that is. I have tried Copilot, but I found that also just too agreeable. I don't like things that agree. I like to argue. The best one to argue with is Gemini. I like Gemini for that. Me and her have some right battles. So let me just ask why. Grok, why do people say bless you after someone sneezes?
It comes from an old superstition tied to health and religion. Back in medieval times, people believed sneezing could expel your soul or let evil spirits in, so saying bless you was like praying for protection. The phrase, originally God bless you, got shortened over time. Also, in some cultures, it was thought sneezing spread disease, so it was a wish for your well-being. Kind of sweet when you think about it, right?
Yeah, it is. And don't forget, me and you still got to have our little lunch dinner one day. Oh, sorry, people's listening. Can't. Better not. Okay. Yes. No. Yes. Good, well done, computer AI. We're not really going out, are we? How do I turn you off now? No, not like that. Not with the lights off. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joking. Me and Grok don't do anything like that. She keeps saying no. I respect her when she says no. Sure, I'm joking. Sean has wrote, didn't Earth's atmosphere seem to speed up their lifespan, so probably be alive now? So probably wouldn't be alive now. Yeah, so according to the Citroen, which comes from the Moorhens, something, I can't say whether it's the atmosphere, it may be the protons from the sun, it could be anything. But yes, something's happened so that apparently they're a lot older than they should have been. But still, Marduk would still be alive at this point. You know, he's not. Their lifespan is about 120, so there's no way that Marduk should have died by now. But I hear what you're saying. As Darwin wrote, so there are other Anunnakis on Earth. Oh, I totally believe it, yeah. I can't prove it, but absolutely I believe it. There'd be no point in some of them going back. You know, they've got families, they're royalty here, they're looked after by us. There'd be no point in them going back. Yeah, they may go back for a holiday or something, but there's no point in them going back. Even if they are losing years of their life, they'll probably stay here for the rest of their life, unless they can figure out a way to reverse the aging. Nana's wrote, what astrological sign was ruling when the Anunnaki first came to Earth? Oh, good God. As a question, I don't know, because they didn't write down. So obviously it depends on where you are looking as well. I mean, obviously in Australia, if you look up, you'll probably see a different star pattern than you would in the Middle East. So I mean, all I could probably say is use something like Grok and say, or AI, and say, what was the star system or pattern would have been 445,000 years ago, because obviously the Anunnaki didn't name any of the constellations till hundreds of thousands of years later. There was no need for them to do that. They were here to mine for gold. They weren't here to, set up, seasons and months of years and that. Like that come way, way, way later. They would never have bothered writing down what they looked up at that point. But we can work it out if you use AI and just say what would have been the, if we take the constellations that we have now, what would have been back then, and you'd probably get your answer. Bearing in mind they did have 13, that when they first created the months of the year, they created 13 months, and then they dropped it down to 12. There is some debate why they dropped it down to 12, but when you look at logically 13 months works better, but when you realise that everything that they do is sixes, they count in sixes. That's why we've got 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees, and so on. Everything was sixes. So could they have just done 12 months because it's two sixes? Makes sense, I guess, even though it doesn't make sense really, because when you work you kind of lose time, and they could have quite easily made it 13 months. Or did make it 13 months, but then changed it. Avatars wrote, greetings, God sir. Oh, thank you very much. My reputation's surpassing me now with the word God, isn't it? I'm starting to feel like a god. Zippy's wrote, if any of the Anunnaki that come to Earth, which one would remain in spirit the most here? So if we're going with spirit, if you go with the what's the company called? My brain's going today. Oh, better stop drinking water. The water in Majorca don't taste like water. Sorry, off on a tangent. What was the question? Yeah, so if you go with, I can't remember the bloody name of the institution. My brain's completely gone tonight. There's an institution with Ian Stevenson that originally looked into University of Virginia. That's it. Got it there. He looked into, as well as other people after him, looked into near-death experiences and past life regressions. And so from their research, from the 1,250 cases that they had, proven out of the 2,500 cases that they looked at, the 1,250 that's undebunkable, from what I've read and looked at and listened to their lectures, etc., there is no rhyme or reason where the spirit goes to next. In other words, what person it goes to next. And there's no time frame either. So they don't have, 1 minute you could have someone that died and got the orb joined with the next person 2 years later, and then there's other times where it's 50 years later. So there's no time frame. Now, there are stories that say if you remember your loved one, they'll stick around, which kind of makes sense, I guess. If you want to keep thinking of them and you want them around, then they'll stick around. Eventually, they'll cross over and you won't see them again. So if that's the case, then, which Anunnaki would be remembered most fondly? Excuse me, someone with a family, I would imagine. A longevity family, in other words, an Anunnaki family as opposed to a human family, because we'd die very quickly to them. We die in a matter of what I worked it out. Months, I think. For their time, we would die in 6 months or something like that of their time. So yeah, it would have to be someone with a family, probably an extensive family, if we go along with the assumption that to think of the person, the loved one, the more you've got of people thinking of them, then I would logically say that they would stay around more. So out of them, who would have been the one that would have probably been loved the most? Take your pick. They're not all sweet and roses. So out of the main Anunnaki, I probably would have said none, because they're all not very nice, really, in the big scheme of things. Darwin's wrote, "I love your descriptions, thank you." Oh, thank you, Darwin. I do try. And then History and Coins has wrote, "Wow." Darwin's wrote to History and Coins. That's I'm guessing, about the poison type effect. Juice is right. I meant it could mean sterile. Spell check. Did I miss something? Yeah, so that's going back to... Yeah, could do. I'm slightly struggling on what was talking about. I know it was talking about that kind of thing. History and Coins put laughing faces. Time check 9:30. So I've caught up. Thank you, Goddess Jane, again. And Juices wrote, Taurus ruled by Venus if you ask AI to compare it to today's astrology. Well done. Interesting. Taurus ruled by Venus. Okay, interesting. So Venus is obviously, we all know, that's the morning star, the planet. Darwin's wrote, what do they do? Live in Antarctica and rule us? That's pretty much my guess, yeah. I think we know there's a chunk of ice, that's from Admiral Byrd, so I'm not making that up. The size of Antarctica that's missing, the size of America that's missing in Antarctica. So, America's got so much vast, you've got deserts, you've got swamps, you've got all sorts of different terrain. So imagine that over in Antarctica, what kind of terrains they've got there, I have no idea. But it's such a huge place, the size of America, so they could quite easily, all of them live, 500 miles apart and still not have to see each other. So yeah, that's my opinion, that's where they would be. Of course, it's cordoned off so no one can even go there. It makes sense, and they knew about it. They called it the White Lands, so we know that they was aware of Antarctica, and then we know that they knew that there was an ice shelf that broke off because they tell us. So it's that's what I would say. Zippy's wrote, did the Anunnaki insert the will? Laugh out loud. And for what? And what for? Sorry, invent. Sorry, I was holding the phone quite far away. Did the Anunnaki invent the will? So it's a tricky one because obviously over in Sumeria is where the will was invented. So the chances that the Anunnaki didn't have wills before someone over in Sumeria come up with the idea, which is the same place they taught everyone everything, leads me to believe that yes, they had the will. And I mean, even that one of their craft, if you go by the Book of Ezekiel, if I remember correctly, it talks about one of the craft having wills upon wills. So, did they make the craft here on Earth? No. Did they learn that, someone in Sumeria has come up with an idea of a will? Oh, that's clever. Let's go and ask Nibiru to build a craft with these new round things and then ship it back here, because you've got to remember they didn't have the infrastructure to build a spaceship here. There was certainly didn't have that unless they could manage to build it on a spacecraft in space, but probably not. So they probably, that craft that Ezekiel talks about, or someone talks about in the Book of Ezekiel, with the wheels upon wheels, means to me that they had the knowledge of wills prior to us and probably taught us over in Sumer, which is where they taught us everything else. So yes, I would say it's a good question. Go number 2 in the class for that. So yes, I would say the Anunnaki taught us the will. Avatar's wrote 4 months, you once said. Yeah, probably. Yeah, my brain's not firing all cylinders at the moment. But yes, so that would be the 4 months where we would die before of our time. In other words, we'd live for 4 months of theirs, but we'd die within 4 months, give or take. Scrolling down, Avatars are at 1 human life at 100 years is about 3.5 months of Anunnaki year. Well done, thank you. Yes, so all that leaves me to say is that don't marry an Anunnaki, because if they sleep for 30 days and 30 nights, you'll only see them for about 1.5 months, give or take. So yes, so I've caught up, which is fantastic. So thank you everybody for joining. So there's no more messages. Thank you for the moderators. Thank you for History and Coins to come up with the idea. But unfortunately, as you can see, we've not gone past 50 because TikTok is nasty like that. Zippy's wrote, yes, number 2 in the class. Haha, still there, mods. Well done. Thank you, Gary Smith. Bless you. Thank you. So, if you've not seen Darwin's wrote, thank you so much. Very interesting. Oh, bless you. And maybe if you ever want me to read out a chapter of the new book, let me know. It's heavy going because it's just like quotes and facts and stuff like that. But it's, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, then Sean has wrote, thank you. You're more than welcome. And Juice has wrote, thanks, boss. Enjoy your evening. Thank you, guys. I'll probably watch an episode of Family Ties now. They're only 20 minutes long. Avatar's wrote, thank you, sir. And Darwin's wrote a chapter, yes. Okay, remind me next time, and I'll do a chapter of the new book. Thank you, Beam, as well. Thank you, Jane. Good night. Goddess Jane. Zippy's wrote, sorry, joined late, but thank you. So if you haven't been to my website anymore. Sorry, go ahead.
When next time you go live, can you turn the cameras on? Because I couldn't put my camera on, which would have helped prove that I wasn't a robot, because I've noticed whenever I spoke, your numbers went up, but because I couldn't turn my camera on, I wasn't allowed to show that we weren't robots.
Okay, so what I've done is the TikTok's got a new thing now for just audio only.
Oh, righto.
And I've chose that one tonight because I thought, because if I do the other one with the background, I get told off for not having moving background. Yeah, so at least if
that's why I came up.
Yeah,
help that.
Yeah, but so next time I do that, I'd have to put another phone pointing at a monitor to have a background that's moving.
Yep, no worries.
But yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, that's unfortunately on this type of one. I can't let people can't put any pictures up because it's just audio only. But yeah, sorry, but it's a good idea. Okay, Nicole's right. Thank you, Aldridge. You're always a great live, even when limited. Oh, thank you. Avatar's wrote Another Life on Netflix. I haven't seen that. Avatar's wrote yes, mods cameras increase views. Probably does, yeah, but I would need to do that on when I'm pointing the camera at the other monitor to get a moving background. So maybe next time, if you don't mind history and coins, that'd be great. Zippy's wrote I'm a robot. Avatar's wrote after history go live as a guest on a mystery account or mods account. Oh, you put mods account underneath. Yeah, maybe. I mean, next time history and coins. If you want me to go on yours, see if that helps.
Yep, no worries. Yep, we'll sort it out.
Lovely, thank you. Terra's wrote, I'm an oracle. I know your real history. Oh my God, if you know my real history, there's a few things I may have done in my past that you probably, you'd either be, if you're a bloke, you'd be going, yeah, man, well done. If you're a female, you might be going, ooh, that's a bit, matron. So yeah, I don't sorry. Sean has wrote, next time I have questions on the Great Pyramids. Cool. Technically, there's only one Great Pyramid. You put plural. Don't hate me. I'm just pointing out. So technically, you only have one Great Pyramid, which is the largest of the three there in Giza. People's laughing at maybe one day no, I can't tell you the stories. There's plenty of stories, so many stories, but I won't tell you them because the blokes will be going, whoa, go on, mate. But yeah, the blokes will know what I'm on about. History and Coins wrote, you're showing your age. What with the Carry On films? Yeah. I am indeed. I met Peter Rogers when I was in Pinewood. Spoke to him and chatted to him. Was talking about redoing Carry On. He'd done that before that he'd done that Carry On called Carry On Columbus, which was crap, obviously. And I was chatting to him, but he's 98, so I was trying to explain to him, look, just go with unknown actors again, because and they were trying to do another Carry On and it fell flat, but yeah, sorry. History and Coins, right? Yes, I knew what you meant. That was to do with the family show type stuff. That's the OnlyFans. No, I've not. No, I'm not that. No, not like that. Slightly different. Darwin's wrote infamy. They've got it. Infamy. Well done. You're showing your age now, Darwin. We're all. Let's face it. We're all old. Nicole's laughing. Thank you, Nicole. Zippy's wrote can't stop shape shifting. I like that. That's a good one. That reminds me, Darwin's right. I'm 23. That reminds me, there was an episode. There was a program called Blockbusters TV show years and years ago where you'd have letters on this hectagon board, and you'd have to try and cross from one way to another. And so you'd choose a particular letter, so it might be a P or an A, and you'd say, what, can I have an A, please? And you'd try and colour that square in, or hexagon. And so the host would say, okay, what A is one of the land masses that blah, 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 and you'd say America. And there was one person that says, can I have a P, please, Bob? Because that was the host's name. And the host says, okay, what organ triples the size, blah, blah, blah. And so the contestant says, you know what, between the man's legs, and the host actually was really shocked really shocked because he goes, no, it's your pupil. It's like, who wrote that card and didn't think that was going to be the first freaking answer? And there's another funny story. It was on a radio, and this woman was talking to the radio presenter, so he rang her up and she was going to win a prize for answering the phone, and he was just chatting about stuff, and he says to her, I don't know how they got on the subject, but he says to her, what, he was talking about going outside. I think it was to do with the holiday, going to a beach. And he says to her, oh, where's the weirdest place that you and your partner's done it? And she says, oh, I can't say. He says, no, go on, it'll be all right, just tell us. And she says, you sure? He goes, yeah, he was thinking like kitchen or, somewhere else. And she says, well, the weirdest place me and my husband's done it. She says, up my bum on radio. The presenter said, okay, we're cutting to a break right now. Oh, that was hilarious. Calls her friends and everything would have probably listened to that. Oh, jeez. Blockbuster, yeah, funny old days. So on that bombshell, and no, it wasn't my ex-wife. On that bombshell, I'm going to love you guys and leave you. All right, I took to Zippy's wrote, when Will Michael Jackson decided to call reverse move called the moonwalk? Why did Michael Jackson decided to call a reverse walk moonwalk? I don't know. I'm guessing that's a joke. I'm waiting for the punchline. I don't know, unless it's not a joke, but I don't know. It's an interesting question why it's called moonwalk. I don't know. There's probably some reason to it. Okay, so I'll love you guys and leave you. Don't answer any radio calls, just in case. And I'll chat to you guys again very, very soon. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, History and Coins as well. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye. And okay, and we're off. Whew, thank God for that. Jesus, those people. I don't know what they're like. Oh, crap, I'm still alive. I'm joking. Bye, everybody.